Ham in here, host of the Insiders, 10 to 12, Monday through Friday. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube here on ESPN 1320. Hammer, what do you want to see tonight from the Sacramento Kings?
No injuries.
Oh,
James keeping it real.
there's that.
James keeping it real. We kind of went with the idea that if they played like they did on Sunday, that's fine. Especially because we're talking about De'Aaron Domas, like we're talking about those guys. We could talk about Kevin Huerter. We can dive a little, deeper into the conversation. We cover the Sacramento Kings. That's what we do. But when we look at it from a higher view, just play like you did. Move. Get the offense moving. Get everybody in a vibe where they feel comfortable, and let Mike play whoever he wants to play in the fourth quarter and see what happens.
Yeah, so I agree with all of that. I think this is game 4, and with game 5 being a back-to-back against your opening night opponent, I don't know how much you're going to see the starters tomorrow, or how much you should see the starters tomorrow. So I would assume that tonight would be a game that you actually go ahead and go for it a little bit. Let your guys go out there and see how they look. And I think Steph is playing, right? I think Chris Paul is probably going to play. If they aren't, I don't know. I haven't looked.
They are.
Yeah. So you might as well, hey, look, this is a moment where you can test yourself a little bit. And the plan was always, I guess, for Kevin Huerter to play tonight and for Chris Duarte to play tomorrow. But of course, that's been taken out because Chris Duarte is injured. We don't have any update on that, just so people outside of the fact that he had an MRI, it was clean. He has a minor bone bruise, and sort of like they said even yesterday that he was on the mend, basically. So, but yeah, I think this is a moment where you want to give your guys a little bit of a test without showing too much, because you play this team twice in the first week of the season.
Hey, quick follow-up. Did you say so Chris was started Sunday, Kevin was going to start tonight? We got that from Mike. Did you say Chris was supposed to start tomorrow?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what Mike said yesterday, that the plan was for Huerter to start on Wednesday and for Duarte to start on Thursday.
Okay.
And that was the plan. And then just I think Mike was pretty clear. He has everything that he does is intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Whether this was to push somebody, or it's because he feels like there might be a need somewhere, or he feels like someone makes more sense for what he's doing. I think that he definitely, he looks at this as an opportunity to test, but also look, if Chris Duarte beats out Kevin Huerter, he beats out Kevin Huerter, and you got to figure out what that means for Kevin later, and you figure out what that means for Duarte, and see if he can stay healthy and all that stuff. But if that's the way it goes, that's the way it goes. They definitely want to get Duarte as many reps as possible, or that was the plan, just because he hadn't played in well over 200 days.
Are you able to get a read on how all of this is played out? I know Mike said that these guys knew the deal the whole time. We watched over and over again your interview with Kevin Huerter. It did not feel like he knew that was the plan when you guys asked him. But, I mean, maybe he just did, and he was just speaking the way he always speaks. Were you able to get a read on whether or not this was always the plan and all these guys knew what it was, or was it a bit of a shock to a guy like Kevin Huerter?
Yeah, I mean, everything I read from standing there next to Kevin Huerter and was that this was a pretty big shock to his system,
Mm-hmm.
and that he really didn't know. He said, after we got done with the first game, that they would assess. So, but that again, that's on Sunday, and then we talked to Mike on Tuesday. So we have a whole day there in the middle where a lot of things could happen, and who I'm not quite sure, how much the coaching staff had articulated to Kevin Huerter, what the plan was for the final 2 games of the preseason. But again, game 4 is going to be a heavy minute game, or it should be for your starters. And then who knows with game 5. But I think this whole situation It's going to take a little while to figure out because I don't think we've seen the last of this.
So what does that mean to you? Because we were discussing this earlier. Is that position something that you think Mike will evaluate as the season goes along?
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, I mean, like, I think that, we talked about this before that, it's kind of an awkward situation, right? Because if you're not the starting shooting guard, you're not the backup shooting guard,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. Because the
Mhm,
backup shooting guard is Malik Monk.
mhm,
So
right.
if you don't get one job, your job is something else, and that means you're gonna be the backup small forward, and then you start getting into that quagmire, which is pretty complicated. The small forward position still, because Keegan's gonna play there. We've seen Sasha play there. Uh, Harrison Barnes is gonna eat the bulk of the minutes, but it's kind of a situation where you're not quite sure how it's all going to play out for whoever the guy who isn't the starter at this position. And I mean, I get the Chris Duarte intrigue. I mean, he's a number 13 pick in the draft from just like 3 years ago. He's still young. He's still 26 years old. You have him locked up under contract, not only this year, but I would expect they're going to pick up a 4th-year option on him and have him under contract for roughly $6 million next season as well. And then he's a restricted free agent, so you still have rights to him. Like there's a lot of pluses to having a player like Chris Duarte, and if he fits in and he can improve your team, then why not? Like this is about taking the next step, right? It's not about anyone's personal feelings or trying to take care of one guy and making sure that he still has a spot on the team. Like this is professional basketball. And whatever that entails at the end of the day, Mike Brown and his staff are going to have to make that decision. But like I even told Kyle, like, what if Chris Duarte is Doug Christie?
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people, like your first instincts go, no, Doug is amazing. Doug was, yeah, like look at their career paths. Like, it took Doug until he was in his late 20s to really find a home in Toronto. He gets traded to the Kings at 30 and just takes off, right? But like it's the same style of player. It's a multi-positional player who does the dirty work, who can handle the ball, that can shoot the ball, that plays defense. That doesn't have to be the focal point of anything, but at the end of the day is really the focal point of a lot of things that you're not seeing, that you're just that help the game, that help you win. And so, like, there's always that potential that that's what they've stumbled on here, or that's how they projected him when they traded for him. We don't know, but he's got a lot of work to do in order to earn that idea. But that's kind of the player you've always needed next to De'Aaron Fox is a guy that can take on a tough guard, especially the more physical players. So Fox can, kind of lighten up on the defensive end a little bit. Duarte shot 36.9% in his rookie season from three. Like he can do a lot of things on the court. You might take a step back offensively a little bit, but are you really? Because everyone expects Keegan Murray to take a step forward, and that step forward has to come from somebody. And let's just say that it does come from a position like the shooting guard position where you go from a guy averaging 15 points a game to a guy averaging 12 points a game. And you take those 3 points and just stack them on Keegan Murray's stats. You're not going to have a problem with the offensive end if you're this team. I don't think there's any way to do it. So I definitely can see how a coach can rationalize this entire situation and say, like, why not give it a shot? Like continuity is one thing, but 24th rated defense. That's not going to win a championship. Doesn't matter how many times they say that that's their goal. If you're 24th in defense, you're going to get bounced in the second or the third round. If you can't, stop somebody, you're going to lose eventually.
Some good points for sure. Is there a concern from what you've been able to gather? Is there a concern Duarte might not be ready for the start of the season with that
We
bone?
don't know yet. Yeah, I would like to have the answer to that, but I mean, yesterday it was delivered to us that he is already showing signs of improvement, and that they don't think it's long term at all, but that they're gonna, out of an abundance of caution, keep him out of the next 2 preseason games, which is the right move. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's a knee issue. Why not not let him sit and make sure he's in as close to 100% as possible, especially when you look at his injury history from last season.
I assume Chris Duarte is the only person in this conversation. It's not like we've got to replace Kevin Herter with someone. It's just Chris Duarte could work here. There's no one else on the roster in contention. That's probably not the right word I'm looking for, but there's no other person in this conversation, right? It's Kevin, it's Chris, it's offense, it's defense, it's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, as in like Malik Monk. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Like there.
I mean, I don't think
there's
Colby
no other.
Jones is storming the castle here.
There's right. There's no other. There's no other conversations about changes in the starting lineup besides that, which may not be a real conversation. We're kind of reading between the preseason lines here a little bit.
Yeah, and even, Mike Brown said in practice yesterday, very specifically, he's like, the only two people that are guaranteed starting jobs are De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis.
Mhm.
And if I'm Keegan Murray and Harrison Barnes, I'm like, what did you just say? Like, what's going on over there? Like, excuse me? Like those two, like, again, you haven't tried anything really new except for Keegan Murray sat for a game and you put Sasha Vezenkov in the game. But I also
He's
thought,
motivating those two guys to be all pro. That's what it is. You be all NBA, your spot's guaranteed. After that, you got to be better.
yeah, and I enjoyed it too because I'm looking at him like, man, you just literally said you like those two. Like, you got 5 kids and you like those two the best. Like, because it's a weird way to look at it, but it's like, hey, I love all of you guys equally. It's like, except for those two who are starting. Like, okay. That I thought that it was just a funny way that Mike put it out there. But I mean, I understand what he's saying. And there can be changes here and there throughout the season, depending on, player development or, Sasha figures out the NBA speed. Like there's always that possibility, but I just think it's kind of a shock for all of us because we walked into the like 6 weeks ago, Trey Lyles was your backup was your backup center, and we're trying to piece all these things together. And then all of a sudden, JaVale McGee shows up, and now he's a huge part of what's happening. And then all of a sudden, Chris Duarte has taken on a new role that I don't know how it will all pan itself out, but this isn't as easy as let's run it back anymore. And I think that that's where we were before. And now it's like, okay, maybe let's run it back is not something that makes sense today. Then again, Kevin Herter could be the starter on opening night and away we go. And if Kevin Herter gets off to a fast start, I don't expect them to, like you're 4-1 coming out of the chute and all of a sudden he wants to like move on from one of your starters. I don't think that's the way it works either. So
how do you think Kevin Herter responds to all this? Do you think this is something that possibly could bother him and bother his game and affect his game? Or is he the type of guy where he takes it all in stride? It has no bearing on his game. If he's not playing good, it's not because of what happened with the starting lineup stuff or anything like that. It's just he's not playing good. You think it affects him at all?
I don't think we know until it happens, until you get out on the court and you see how it works out. That's always a danger in this situation. Again, you have like a $4.5 million player and you got like a $16.5 million player. And the last thing you want to do is make your $16.5 million player worth $4 million and the other guy worth 10, even though he's not under contract long term. So you're always thinking of these things as well, like just the overall stability, long term, look of the franchise and all that stuff. But like, I think we're all on the same page that we think that in order for the Kings to be a title contender, they might be a piece away. And how big that piece is, we can, you know, we can debate. But still, I think like you can look at the roster, think that this team could win. Let's just say they win like something crazy, like 58 games. You still can see where there's some needs here. And, it's not a perfectly constructed, finished roster. And that's not me like calling out a general manager. He said the same thing that we're always looking to get better. Who knows when we'll make a move, that type of stuff. But at the same time, I just kind of look at this roster and say, okay, like I like what's happened here. I like the continuity. I like everything that's happening, but you probably need one more piece to get you over the top. And if you could find a piece that's better than say 3 of your, top 6 and you move everybody down one, then this team gets better. And you got to do what's right for the whole. And like again, I hope it doesn't hurt Kevin Herter's feelings, and then he's able to either win his starting job here or fight through and be a valuable member off the bench. But until you roll the ball out there, you have no idea how players going to react.
Hammer, what do you think is the worst, like realistic scenario for the Kings this year? I'm not talking about a scenario where like De'Aaron misses 70 games and Domas misses 68. Like realistically, we'll say the team is of like relative health. What do you think the floor, so to speak, is for this group?
Yeah, I mean, so last year I kept saying, like coming into the season, I thought the team was between a 10th seed and a 6th seed, and I didn't think there was any way they could get higher. And I was wrong. Although the 3rd seed did kind of come back to them, at 48 wins. That's not a standard, 3rd seed in the Western Conference. But I kind of look at their floor. Like I read the John Hollinger piece just like everybody else did, and I don't understand how, again, how you can say that by renegotiating and extending Domantas Sabonis that you raised your floor but lowered your ceiling, which I can understand that concept. But how do you say that in an article and then remove 9 wins from the team total
Them
for the
dudes
next?
hate Domas. It's the weirdest freaking thing.
It's wild.
It is wild. I don't get it. I'm totally. I am baffled by the way that they attack that specific type of thing. But like by all measures, especially John Hollinger's the inventor of PER, player efficiency rating. That is the Hollinger stat. Like he built it for ESPN. So by his own stat, like Domantas Sabonis is one of the top, I don't know, 10, 12 players in the league. Like this is an excellent player. So I'm not sure what the overall like vibe is there, why they pick on these specific things, but I kind of look at the floor is what they were last year. And people can disagree with me on that, but like if I look at 44 and a half wins as like what Vegas is putting at, I don't understand that. I would take the over every day of the week. Like, and if somehow somebody put their win total at what John Hollinger did at 39 wins, yeah, like I'm cashing out like me and the wife's 401k and running to Vegas. Like that's just to me that would be the easiest bet of all time. So I'm not quite sure. Like I think their floor is probably who they were last year, and give or take a win. Like if it's 46, 47 wins or 49, 50 wins. Like, but I also think that their ceiling is a lot higher than people think. And I would side with, I don't know if you saw the quotes from Michael Wilbon, but I would side with him more than I would Hollinger. And that is that he thinks that they can be a number 1 seed. And that's because something that I've said a million times, they care about every game. They're focused on every game. And when other teams are just rolling through the first half of their schedule, knowing that they're going to be there in the end, the Kings are going to be picking up wins at like a higher rate than what most people are going to expect. So I could see them making a run for something crazy like 56 wins because they are going to value victories more than a team like the Clippers that are still dealing with players resting, or a team like the Suns who are, or the Golden State Warriors who half their roster is, getting ready to collect their social security checks. Like it's just, this team is young. It's built to be good right now, and they want to be good, and they want to prove everybody wrong. And so I think it will equate to a lot more wins than people expect.
At 56, that's not saying that you're wrong or it can't happen, but just the thought of Sacramento Kings team right now, like
That would have
could
been the
win
most in the
55,
league last year,
56.
right? 56. I can't
Well, yeah,
remember
but
what Milwaukee had.
I just want to crumple up last season's like overall because it's such an outlier with any other season.
Why?
I don't think those records are going to be much different this year, though.
Like, what?
No,
Why is it such an outlier?
I'm not saying that the Kings did something wrong or that they weren't a 48 win team. What I'm saying is that 48 wins has never been the third seed. It's like it's usually at 53 or 54. So like if that's who they're going to be, then like I just think that the way that the Western Conference was last year, for some reason, the high end win totals were down compared to other years. Like the only team that really rolled was Denver. And outside of that, I mean, there wasn't a team like pushing for 62 wins or 64 wins. Just wasn't there. So
But I think those days, I don't want to say are over, but they're not here right now, simply because one of the things I was there's too much talent in the league. There's too much talent, and like your worst team can beat anybody on any given day. Your worst team in the league has somebody that we like. Oh, I like his game. I want to see him play. There's too much talent, and when you talk about the Western Conference, there's no. I don't feel like there's no bottom feeders. So there's not going to be a team with 60 wins and another team with 22. I don't think that's happening this year. So I think the records are going to be around the same as they were last year. That's just my thought.
I mean, again, we talked about this like during the offseason, I believe. What year was it where the Phoenix Suns under Jeff Hornacek won 48 wins and were the 9th seed and didn't make the playoffs? Like that's what I'm talking about. I think all of the top tier teams should slide up quite a bit. Although I'll put in the other qualifier, which was that a lot of the low end teams last year were tanking for Victor Wembanyama. And then there were a bunch of other teams that were like, hey, well, why not? We're not a great team. We might as well like let off the gas just a little bit, just so we at least have a shot at getting Victor Wembanyama. So I don't know. I feel like that last year there should have been more wins on the table than there were. And like 48 wins seems like, again, I don't think that was a stretch for the Kings once we got into the season and they started beating everybody. And you're like, okay, this is kind of who they are.
So the 17-18 season, the Portland Trailblazers hit the 3 seed with 49 wins. The 15-16 season, the Miami Heat hit the 3 seed with 48 wins. Generally, you see a 50-plus win team at the 3 seed. But the thing is, what I've noticed, I had to navigate COVID years here too.
Yeah.
It's a lot of 50, 51, 52. The Kings finished with 48. It's not like they finished with 44. Like we're talking, if the average 3 seed is, and this is a completely made up number just based off of 50 and a half to 51 wins, it's a 2.5 game difference. It's not like the Kings hijacked the 3 seed last year and it was completely unprecedented. We found 2 within the last 10 years. Take 2 of those seasons off for 72 games. We found 2 in the last 8 82 game seasons in which teams finished with 48 or 49 wins to be the 3 seed.
Yeah, but just to clarify, you're talking about the 3 seed between 2 different leagues, between the Western and the Eastern Conference.
I'm looking at both of them, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, so there's 2 3 seeds for every one of those. So we're talking, 2 out of 16, 2 out of 18.
Shut up.
So I'm just saying, like, look.
I got a Clipper team here at 57 wins at the 3 seed.
Yeah. So like there are some seasons where that 3 seed is really high. And look, I'm not saying that the Kings did anything wrong.
That's what I heard. They
won like other teams were.
Kings. That's what I heard.
Just for my sanity, what are the 3 worst teams that year? What's their?
Oh shoot! What year?
The 57 year, the Clippers won. They were 3 seed.
Oh, hold on. Give me 2 seconds. Talk about Derek White while I go back to this year.
Derek White. How does this all affect?
How's this? 57. So you wanted to know the worst teams that made the playoffs?
No, just
that was James. That was your year. That was what you were talking about.
The worst teams in the league.
Yeah,
the worst teams.
The 3 worst win totals.
15 and 67.
We ain't
wow.
getting those teams.
15 and 67. The Milwaukee Bucks. 19 and 63, the Philadelphia 76ers, and all three in the East, 23 and 59, the Orlando Magic. How wild is this? 25 and 57 was the Boston Celtics.
Wow.
The Bucks, 76ers, Magic, and Celtics had the four worst records in the league. In the West, you had the Jazz at 25 and 57, the Lakers at 27 and 55, and there they are, the Sacramento Kings at 28 and 54. But this was the year James was talking about where Phoenix finished 48 and 34 and missed the playoffs. The Mavericks made it at 49 and 33. The top, sorry, Casey, 7 teams were 50-win teams in the Western Conference.
The worst team in the league this year is going to have 25 wins.
I'm with you. Yeah,
there ain't no 15 wins going on. No, they didn't even have 15 wins last year. I think the worst team had like 20. Was Houston or Detroit had 20? I think. So like 20.
Yeah,
20.
Man, that's.
I'd also.
Sorry.
I would point out too that like overall, the depth of the league right now is really solid. So like the shift of stars moving to the Eastern Conference has kind of like balanced the books a little bit. I think we'll see a little bit, with like Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant being in the Western Conference the entire season this year. That'll be a little different, as far as like balancing. But overall, like both leagues are going to be solid. Where in that year you could see how bad the Eastern Conference was and how the Western Conference was just sniping wins every single day. And that's not going to be the case this year. I mean, the beasts are in the East still, even right now.
We'll come back. It is low-key jarring seeing 7 50-win teams in the Western Conference. We'll come back. We'll talk a lot more about the Sacramento Kings, who play the Golden State Warriors tonight for the 457th straight time when we return here at Steelo and KC with the insider, James Ham, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. Getting that Jiffy Lube love.
Yeah, man.
Get up for a second.
That's right. Hi, Chatty House. I'm back.
James doing double duty. Back at it.
Yeah. So Kieran Nabeem, I would like to like see an advanced study on like how many wins it typically is, and how many wins it typically is in the Western Conference, how many wins it typically is in the Eastern Conference. And I'm not trying to disparage the Kings at all. Like everybody kind of shrunk down, and the difference between the 3rd seed and the 7 seed really wasn't that great this last season, which is what some of the arguments that you're hearing out there from some of the national guys. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see how it goes.
If they did an average, like what the 3 seed is, I'd say 52, 53.
Yeah.
Last year they did have a 18-win team. Detroit only won 17 games last year.
Let's say that number is 53. 5 wins at the NBA level is, I mean, that's huge. That's a lot of wins. And like, especially if you look at the Kings, who didn't have a 4-game losing streak outside of the first 4 games of the season. That's a lot of games that you got to steal, like in the middle.
Yeah, 58 for Milwaukee was the best record in the league. 57 for Boston. 54 for Philadelphia. But to me, it's no coincidence. Boston, Milwaukee were playing Detroit. They played them 6 times total last year. So, that's adds to the win total. Houston won 22 games last year. What a surprise.
Wait, who did?
Houston.
Yeah, and everyone, I mean, people have them jumping ahead of the Kings.
Yeah, it's a little aggressive, but I do think Houston is an interesting team. They're interesting.
They're still a hot mess, so. Aldrin J asked, "Hey, why did I ask Malik where's playoff Malik in the preseason?" You found that funny. I asked him that because he hasn't checked in yet. Like I have this saying where players need to check in and have their "I'm ready for the season" games, and he hasn't had that yet. And if you're Malik and you're in a contract year and you want to go from six man of the year conversation to something more that might get you like the big money that the Kings can't afford, then you need to be playoff Malik the entire season. And he also that's something that he brought to the table when I did the interview with him on media day, playoff Malik, and how he said that he's going to try to be that player throughout the season. But I want to see. All I need to see is like 3 minutes of playoff Malik. I don't need to see like 32 minutes of playoff Malik.
Phoenix Fox affiliate couldn't find D-backs fans in Philly, got water ice / cheesesteak segments instead. The Diamondbacks have to be one of the most nondescript franchises in all sports.
I don't know how they're there. Like good for them. Good for them. But geez. Yeah.
Never.
I know Kyle has fallen in love with the Phillies.
Yeah, they're legit. So I'll tell you so I got home, like settled, like sat down after walking Sprout, opened the computer. ESPN, I saw the Phillies. It was like, yo, I saw 1-0. Okay, I'll tell the story on there. So I started the story on the break. I'll tell the story on air. Major League Baseball playoffs going on. I get home, open up the computer, haven't turned the TV on, just settling down. It's pretty late, and I saw 1-0, and I thought, yo, I gotta turn this game on. Got to turn this Phillies game on. Mm-hmm. But it said Schwarber hit his second home run, and I'm like, how is that? And I'm staring at the screen like, how is that possible? Maybe they meant his second home run of the series. And I'm like, did he hit one in game one? So I'm like fumbling. I'm legit confused, just sitting in my house confused. And then I realized it said 10-0. Oh. And I stopped looking for the remote. I was like, I don't, because it was like what I saw, I swear to you, I saw 1-0, bottom of the eighth. I've got to see the end of this game. Yeah. And I was so confused by that headline. I was like, okay, whatever. It's just a typo. Oh, that's a 10.
That was a beatdown.
It was 10-0.
That was a beatdown in Philly again with them Diamondbacks. Sorry, Lena Washington. The Philadelphia Phillies, they look like a team on a mission. They got two teams that look like a team on a mission. The Rangers and the Phillies. Yeah. Somebody's got to lose. I hope it's the Phillies.
Just because I don't hate Philadelphia?
Yeah, I like Bryce Harper, though. That's my boy, Bryce.
But you hate Philadelphia.
Oh, if I hate Philly, I'm not feeling them right now, though. Okay, we got history.
We'll pull up.
Me and Philly got history in the back.
No, but you don't. Like, Bonte has history with Philly.
No, history in a good way. Like, I used to like the Sixers. I used to like them.
You love the Sixers. If anyone's ever a contestant on a game show where they ask something about the 2001 Philadelphia 76ers,
those are my guys. Those are my guys.
Call Kenny immediately.
Shout out AI.
He'll know.
That's my boy.
Aaron McKee.
6 man of the year that year.
See, he knows the whole coaching staff. Like
Theo Ratliff.
Theo Ratliff got traded for Dikembe at the trade deadline. Dikembe won Defensive Player of the Year.
Eric Snow.
Big time shot in game 1 of the finals. 1 foot runner to put it on ice. He had a bad ankle in the whole playoffs.
I remember that.
This is a fun game.
No, that is his squad.
You know who had some big time shots in game 7 against the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals?
Kevin Huerter.
No.
Oh.
He did hit some big time shots against Philly in game 7. But Jermaine Jones had a good game. And so did Rodney Buford.
Rodney Buford.
Pair of Kings legends.
Yeah.
Look at that. Pair of Kings legends.
James, Kevin Herter, Davion Mitchell. Do we need to see something from them tonight besides not getting injured?
No, because I think Davion already had his check-in. I would like to see Kevin Herter have a good game. Like, go out there and, like, there's a if when you're facing adversity, like, go for it. Like, don't try to, like, try to, like, sort of wind your way through it. Like, go take the bull by the horns here. Like, you wanna be that guy, then go be that guy. And so, yeah, I would like to see him have that game, have a big game. I think it's interesting too, like, we spent so much time with Mike trying to explain this situation or try to explain like some of the defensive problems that they're still having. And he keeps getting like physical, which is like awesome for video. You're sitting there watching, you know, Mike Brown like push Jason Anderson around and like forearm shimmy him and then shove him and like there's you can see some of the issues that they're trying to talk about, and a lot of these things, it's not easy for players to adjust who they are as players and to go out there and be way more physical, but physical without fouling. So you're like, okay, am I doing it right? It's like, no, 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 too much. It's the old surfboard thing, right? The forgetting Sarah Marshall, is that what it was from? Like when he's like, you're doing too much when he's jumping up on the
Mhm.
surfboard, and he's like, no, no, you're doing too little, too much, too little. And that's what I feel like, Herter's like trying to run up and like, I'm gonna be physical, and the whistle blows. It's like,
Mm.
okay. And then Mike Brown's like, that's not what we're talking about. And then he goes up the next time and he's not physical enough and blown by. Like, and he looks over and like, that's not what we're talking about. So I think if you Kenny, you've coached, I've coached, like you have a concept that you want to throw in, and the Kings have 21 players to start camp, and you throw this concept out to everybody and everyone's working on it and you're explaining it and you're going through other drills. You got 21 different dudes. They're all going to take it differently. They're all going to take different amounts of time to get it down. Some guys are like locked in within 2 plays. Others, you're like on day 4 and you're just beating your head against the wall and like, why do you not understand the concept? And that's kind of some of what's going on here with the Kings, whether it's Herter, whether it's, name that king that's struggling on the defensive end, because they all are. They wouldn't, be fouling everybody 30 times a game. Kaminga wouldn't go to the free throw line as many times as they did as a team. I mean, the Warriors shot 42 free throws the other night. Like, nobody's getting this right at this point. Nobody's like doing it perfect because this team is a train wreck and going to the free throw, sending their opponent to the free throw line the whole time.
I want to reverse a little bit. You said for you, Davion has already checked in. Oh no, man. He didn't check in on my list. I need a Davion game today. That makes me say that's what I'm looking for. I think either way, he's gonna be ready for the regular season. But I don't know him. I hadn't seen it in the preseason. What have you seen from Davion at least one time to make you feel like he's checked in?
Yeah, I thought the first game he came out, started firing away from 3, looked great. He had 8 points, he had 3 assists. He had that fancy, pass on the fast break, which, like, I didn't know Davion had that in his bag. Like, he's never shown that side of himself. So, like, I think that he looked really good in that game, and I was like, "Okay, he's ready." He also, like, I know he's such a workout dude. He just looks bigger.
He
Is it just
does.
me?
No, he I don't know that he looks bigger. He looks I don't know if it's like side or if he's really cut. I think I don't remember if it was Rachel. I think it was Rachel. Rachel posted a pic of graphic tee, but it was sleeveless,
Yeah.
and it caught like his arms caught my attention. I was like, oh, okay, Davion's, and I don't know that he's bigger as much as he looks to be in like
Great shape.
for a dude who's always in shape. Like he looks to be in phenomenal shape.
Yeah, I mean, I almost like I wanna ask if he's taller. Like, and I know he's not, but he just looks like a bigger human being than he did last year. So, I don't know. I think he's been good. I don't think, it's preseason. No one's been great outside of like Sabonis in the last 2 games, where I mean the dude's sitting here like, almost getting a triple double by halftime
Yeah.
in preseason. You're like, what is going on here? So
Can I have to share this with the class or my brain will explode.
Okay.
We were looking at the 2013-14 season earlier, the 50 win team, 750 win teams. 13 teams. I don't know how this caught my attention. 13 teams in the league that year averaged under 100 points.
Wow.
No team has averaged under 100 points in the NBA since the 2017-18 season, when only 2 teams did it. Those 2 teams, the Memphis Grizzlies and the Sacramento Kings.
Oh, jeez.
That was the
Nasty
last
basketball.
season that anyone in the league averaged under 100 points.
Wow.
Did you say that's the 13-14 season or the 2017 season?
When 2 teams did it, it was 17-18.
Okay, and 17-18, that's De'Aaron Fox rookie season. That's the year that they had 9 different rookies, basically 9 first and second year players.
98.8 points per game. Memphis averaged 99.3.
What's the common thread between those two? It's the 1 year that Zebo was there. Zebo leaves one team, goes to the other, and it's Zebo. Yeah.
Zach Randolph, the offensive slower downer.
The offensive vibe killer.
The vibe killer.
Bullies get bullied.
Poor Zebo. Wasn't he the team's leading scorer?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, that team was a train wreck.
Oh,
But
that was tough.
It was a train wreck because they had 4 rookies that year, and then they had 5 from the previous year. So that's the year before they drafted Scal, Papagiannis, Malachi. They got
this isn't good.
Bogdan Bogdanovic to come over.
I don't know why we always take this awful trip down memory lane when James joins us. That is just treacherous memories right there.
The memories are never good.
Buddy Hield.
Our memories can't go past Jesus. Our memories can't go past a single season. We have to have the Men in Black joint for everything prior to last year. And
I can tell you,
we can get our memories back in like 2004 or something like that, or 5.
Yeah, I can tell you every player from the first year I covered. I'm sure if you'd want to talk about Darnell Jackson and Luther Head, I'm saying that's on Whiteside.
Stand up,
Antoine Wright.
What kind of conversations were you having back then? Like, what was the discussion on the pod?
Do I still want to do this?
Yeah.
Okay, so
they're going to turn it around in a year or 2.
I think like my first year was they were horrible, but I had a really good relationship with Paul Westphal. It was like DeMarcus Cousins' first year in the league, so that was crazy. We had an assistant coach and Antoine Wright get DUIs in the season. So there was that stuff. Luther Head got jettisoned midway through the season for doing something which we never did quite find out.
Oh.
We had Jermaine Taylor show up that year, which was interesting to say the least.
You could actually be making up names at this point.
I don't remember no Jermaine Taylor.
Oh, you don't remember Jermaine Taylor?
What college you go to?
I don't know, but he played for the Houston Rockets before that, and he was a super high flyer. We had the first month of the season or training camp was who was going to win the starting small forward job. Was it Omri Caspi or Dante Green? And that, of course, went to Antoine Wright instead because the other two never could quite figure it out. We had the Dallenberg situation.
Jermaine Taylor, pride of University of Central Florida.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that James will be surprised by this, but the Sacramento Kings was the last professional basketball team he played for. Take that back. That's not true. It was the last NBA team he played for.
I wonder how many people are like that.
I know the answer. So a year after, fast forward an entire year later, 7 players on the first team I covered were out of the NBA. Completely. And only one of them ever returned to the NBA, which was Hassan Whiteside.
Well, that's a good one. It brings the curve up a little bit.
7. Yeah, but see, that was my first go around, and like the Darnell Jackson story is like one of the most horrific, like dramatic stories ever. You had like a 23-year-old dude who like in real life age was like 75. Like he had seen so much loss And so there was that story. There was a lot of like intriguing stories on the team. Even Samuel Dallenberg, who always had such a weird rap, I just thought he was a joy. Like, I don't know what he was like totally behind the scenes, but man, he was so much fun to talk to. He talks with his hands, and that's like, talking to like Inspector Gadget with his hands. They just like his arms were they just kept going. And he had, he's from Haiti, but like French accent. Just like a very nice dude. We had Carl Landry. Like there was a lot of good stuff going on there. Like I enjoyed that team, although it was a mess. It was a mess.
Samuel Dallenberg was drafted by the Sixers the year after they went to the NBA Finals.
Of
Thank you.
course. Samuel
All your
Dallenberg,
Philadelphia 76ers questions.
one of 3 Haitian players to play in the NBA, all 3 of which played for the Sacramento Kings.
It's a live
Olden
trivia
Palnis
show.
is the other one. Who's the other one?
Scala
Scal.
Bissiere.
Olden, Scal, and Samuel Dallenberg.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm reading Darnell
More
Jackson.
about Jermaine Taylor.
No, I'm reading more about Darnell Jackson, and like that's just a story we don't need to recite on the air. That's tough. Lost his mom, grandma. That's tough.
Oh no, it's worse than that.
No, I know. That's why I said it's
yeah.
a story we don't need to recite. That's a tough. That's
Yeah.
that is not a fun way to conclude today's show.
No.
We've got. Hey,
Yeah, let's not dive
shout
into
out
that
to our
one.
brother. Yeah, that's a tough one. James, the Kings and Warriors are playing for the 427th straight time tonight. Are you sick of seeing the Sacramento Kings play the Golden State Warriors?
Yeah. I think I am. When
Are there
they get
any
done,
other teams in the league? Is it really just the Kings and the Warriors at this point?
yeah. Well, that, and by the time we get done with this, it's going to be Kings, Golden State, and Kings, Utah for almost. So when we get done with this stretch, they will have played the Warriors 10 of the last 13 times. And the two of the other games, well, no, maybe it's, man. Okay, let me think. 7, 8, 9. This will, after tonight, it'll be 10 out of 13. When we get into the regular season, it'll be like 12 out of 17 or 18. They will have played them. And 2 of the other games are the Utah Jazz. So yeah, it's a lot of the same exact people. And every time I watch Golden State Warriors, I have like brutal takes on Jonathan Kuminga, and I can't be like, I want to trade draft picks to go get Lester Quinones. Like every time I watch him, I'm like, okay. Those are my thoughts.
James really trying to start this Jonathan Kuminga fight again. There's a lot of Warriors fans in here. James.
Oh no, I can't do that because someone might clip it and tattle on me to 95.7 the game like they did last time.
It's very possible. Very possible and very likely.
Snitches get stitches, man.
They did that for the other day?
Yeah.
Oh, snap.
Oh, Drew Down did it. It had to have been Drew Down.
And tag me and like send it. Oh, like, bro, come on. Like,
Kings reporter says ...
Wait, so what happened here? Did 95 Cent, did they talk about it on a segment or?
No, they probably just put a bunch of ... dots out on Twitter. I don't know what they did, but yeah, it's very possible they overlooked it, so it's fine. I don't care. Like, again, if you really listen to what I'm saying, I don't have anything against Kuminga. I just think that like expecting what he's doing right now to translate to the regular season is a really tough pull. Just because
of minutes alone.
Well, it's minutes, but it's also he's not doing anything that's part of the flow of the offense. It's not something that they do. Like on the break, he's been great, sure. In transition, he's been great, but the rest of it, like he's not going to have the opportunity to dribble 8 to 10 times on a possession. That's not Warriors basketball. Like the only one that gets to do that is Steph, and if not Steph, it was Jordan Poole, and it's both of them are that type of creator on the perimeter. And outside of that, I just don't see it.
Does everyone suit up the next 2 nights? Both nights?
Well, Chris Duarte won't. And then
Chris Duarte won't. Yes.
And then I'm not sure what they do. I'm not sure what they do on Thursday. Like,
this is an extra game. Like, I mean, extra. They played 4 last year. This will be game number 4 and 5. And then, as you pointed out earlier, it's tonight and tomorrow. It's a back-to-back.
Yeah, it's a back-to-back, and I mean, we're at the end of preseason. This is usually when you taper it down a bit. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Mike went heavy tonight and then he went like starters first quarter and out tomorrow, or if then again, it's Mike Brown. He likes his players to play.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch the clip on that Paul George had where he talked about how he misses the good old days of being on a blue collar team that you work really hard and you go to practice every single day and everyone's working out together and everyone's like you don't take days off and all that stuff, and he thinks that's why a lot of the injuries have happened, because that's not what
And he referenced the
he's
Kings,
used to
right?
anymore. I don't know if
Didn't
he
he-
referenced the Kings or if someone
Or-
else referenced the Kings in that.
Or he might have someone might have referenced Mike in that. But yeah,
Hmm.
I did catch that. Not with complete context of the podcast, but I think someone clipped it and sent it to us.
Yeah.
Real
I
talk.
thought it was interesting. Yeah.
it's real talk. Like that's part of the journey. That's part of camaraderie. You know what I mean? Like you guys really being all in on something together,
Mhm.
and that takes day after day after day of showing up and doing work.
Yeah, it was Securing the Beam who did this to us.
There you go.
Yeah, he's the one who sent the tweet out. Yeah, I mean, it's a great clip because it does, like, it puts it in perspective that it's not just us saying that the Kings worked really hard. They did. I mean, I've been around the league a long time. This is, even for a team that usually lacks talent, you would think that they would work as hard as humanly possible. And there was one year where Dave Yeager made everybody run like 300 miles, and Rajon Rondo was like, "What is happening here?"
Mhm.
But outside of that, like, that team last season worked harder than any team I've ever seen. And it's just the way that Mike Brown handled himself and handled his team, and it worked.
Well, games on NBA TV tonight. Tap in. There's no stream, so there should be no blackout. So we should all be able to watch the game like normal people. We're headed out to baseball, right? Or we got some ESPN stuff and then baseball after that.
Yeah, Rangers Astros at 4:30. Be there.
There we go. Very good. Appreciate you so much for being with us. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. I've been super bad at that today. Please hit the thumbs up before you go. Hit the subscribe button as well for all you looky-loos. Be a subscriber. You know what it is. We're going to head over to 102.5. We got Travis Scott tickets to give away.
Yeah.
If you want to go check us out over there. If not, make sure you're tapped back in here tomorrow, beginning at 10 a.m. with The Insiders, brought to you by Jiffy Lube here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320.
Vamos Kings.